Good morning, everybody. Random rant here. I recently heard a couple things on social media that like kind of really hit home, and it was just outside of my, like, you knew it but you didn't. The first one was a spectrum of vibration thing. And now first you have to understand some backstory. And I know that they say followers of the teachings of Christ, those people do become outcasts. Once you start practicing it, the world don't quite work that way. You can function within it, but you function a little differently, right? And I have been finding the difficulties of it, especially interacting with people. Like my cadence and everything, it's not like my videos. It's more like this, but not like my pre-recorded ones where I'm kind of a butthead. And like a know-it-all sounding. I'm very careful around people because I understand they have a different mindset and everything, and you can't just go triggering everybody and all that. But I do notice kind of opposite poles magnetic push away. Not just with me, but even with my wife, who's very, very, she's like a little Care Bear. Like, you can't hate her, but like just her presence, because she doesn't even talk a lot like me. You know what I mean? She doesn't da 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 da. She's just a little bundle of love, but you can notice. And especially as we've grown over the last 10 years together, especially in our faith, like, you know how they kind of say you outgrow some friends and whatever. And yeah, superficially, like, some of her friends still drink a lot and partied a lot and da-da-da. But like, you can tell the super worldly people, they start kind of pushing away, right? And it's not intentional or anything. And it's not like I don't like you. They like walk around, and it is very interesting to me. It doesn't really piss me off or anything, but I was listening to something that was talking about high and low vibrations, right? And of course at the bottom of the spectrum is like hate and anger and all that, and then at the top is like love and all that stuff, right? And I know everybody strives to be very loving and whatever, no matter what, and all this stuff, but that kind of never jived with me for some reason, because like even God got pissed off sometimes at people, right? There is a place for anger and action, you know, not overdoing it, but if just everything is love, yeah. I mean, I get the resonating at a loving level, but then I heard this thing where they did a big old experiment, like in a Faraday cage with like thousands of people. And they found that there is another level to vibration. So they measured, because you can measure stuff now of kind of the vibration, the frequency, the aura you're giving off when you're in these different states of like hate and anger and love and whatever. But what they found was there's a level higher than love. Not just a little bit higher, but like 400 times higher. And it's an interesting one. It is the frequency of authenticity. which is a really tough one, I think, for people nowadays, because everybody's conditioned to have to play a character and act a certain way and da-da-da, and they don't even know who they are anymore. And you could probably, fold authenticity over onto honesty, which is another hard one for everybody. Not to just not tell a lie, but to basically just live in honesty all the time. Not like calling people out all the time. But you will see, kind of like what Jesus did, if you're talking to people, and there's some people that are more full of bullshit than others, but if you're talking to them and you're asking them calculated questions about what they're talking about or griping about, they want to run away. When they have to actually tell the truth of their side of whatever they're griping about, they want to run. They want to leave the conversation. And that's just an example, right? Or people who know that you're a raw person, and if they ask you, they know that you're not, if they're going to interact with you, they're not just going to get pleasantries like the weather and football. You're going to have to talk about life and be authentic with you, because you're authentic. They have to reciprocate it. You don't get to just talk to someone who's really living in the present and enjoying their life no matter what the circumstances is. You don't get to talk to them and just go, you got your 5 seconds of how's the weather, how's your day, good, okay, bye. But after that, an authentic person will start talking about real things. And it's inauthentic people, the ones who are living with anxiety and fear and just work and worshiping money, they veer away real quick, you know what I'm saying? And so it made kind of sense, because over the last few months, I'm like, why does it feel like everybody's kind of, am I a real asshole? You start questioning yourself, am I saying things really, even no matter, because I'm very calculating when I talk to people. I won't go with that extra octave, high pitch, customer service voice ever. But I'm why is there this push away? And I don't want to sound pompous or anything, but I feel like when you jump into a different frequency and you're resonating at a different pole, which the way me and my wife operate are the opposite of the world. It's just polar opposites almost. And that's what happens. And I kind of realized this way far back, and then we're going to get into something that I heard after that. It was something about Mr. Smith, one of the characters in The Matrix. Now that movie was interesting because it came out, 07, 09? I don't even know how young I was. And I hadn't even fallen down any rabbit holes or nothing yet. But I remember watching that movie, knowing at the time, this is not fiction. There's something about this movie, because I was always that whole felt different than other people thing. And on a side note, I feel like a lot of people who are addicted would fall into that category. The stories are always the same. I didn't feel like normal people. I can't just do the status quo. There is something else, and it's really messing with my head and my body, just going along with what everybody's going along with. And eventually, to quell my feelings of being out of the herds and all this mental madness of programming through schools and da-da-da and religion and all this other bull and TV, it's driving me nuts, and I don't know why. I need to release the valve of pressure. I do believe that has something to do with it. Anywho, yeah, there was this little thing about Mr. Smith, and it was a program that whenever it said Mr. Smith was a character that was a program in the Matrix, that whenever Neo started pissing off the Matrix, it would jump into anybody that was near him, and they would turn into the Mr. Smith and fight Neo. And I've noticed this. I noticed this a lot because I talk to a lot of people, And something really weird happens sometimes when you start talking about matrixy things outside of the status quo. And sometimes the person you're talking to will be like, yeah, that is very interesting, and I totally see what you're talking about. And then if the subject comes up, you could give it 3 days. Not only if the subject comes back up, will they start going off of the program again, like they watched the news and the switch got, like they were awake for a minute and like seeing a different angle, and then you gave them a couple days and they watched the news and did whatever they normally do, and it like reprogrammed them back. And not only do they, when you talk about something you just talked about and they were totally agreeing with you on and totally interested in and totally open-minded about, you bring it back up lightly, and all of a sudden all the what do I want to call them, these trigger terms that you hear like on the news or whatever, these key terms and words of defense and their stance just come right into play. And not only that, it's as if they didn't remember. Like you would think, oh, maybe they thought about this conversation and it offended them when they thought about it. And I thought about that. Like, did they just think about what I said and they're like pissed because they got a little cognitive dissonance? No. What I found was most of the time, they don't even remember the conversation. They don't even remember it. Nothing that you said, I remember when I was doing dog walking, and this was a few years back, but I remember something about where you'd get into, somehow the subject of chemtrails would come up, and it'd be a beautiful blue day with not a cloud in the sky, but they'd be playing tic-tac-toe up there, right? And I'd be talking to like a client at their doorstep because they'd be at home working or whatever. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? I'd be like, look. And you could see it clear as day. And then like a week later, I'd see them and then they erased, just gone. And, in passing conversation, like, oh, somebody's sick, I don't know why. Well, it could be like, crap they're spraying in the skies and the food we're eating and da-da-da. And it's like, meh. You're like, whoa, okay. Last week you were totally agreeing with me, and now all of a sudden, yeah. So I just found that very interesting. It is really hard to interact with people. These are the types of things that many of you, I'm sure, who are listening to this know and feel about it. But yeah, the Mr. Smith thing, then when the programming is thick. It's like the educational system and all of the TV shows and news aren't really to inform you. They're like, these are your programs, and when this comes about, here's the defense. And I'm pretty adept at like giving a solid knock on someone's program software firewall, like in a delicate way, and I can do it on purpose and whatever, but like it seems to be getting worse. And everybody feels that like you can't say anything. And it's not just that it's censored on media. It's that like there are active programs to defend the ongoing story. It's just really interesting.